Coming up on Tech News Today, WebOS. Now the OS stands for open source, but is it the BOS of operating systems on the mobile platform? Also, the DOJ is tired of AT&T's mind games. They're just pulling the rug out from under them. And Twitter posts release a murderer from the death penalty. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, December 9th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by Netflix. Watch thousands of TV episodes and movies on your PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or TV instantly, all streamed directly to you, saving you time, money, and hassle. For your free 30-day trial, go to netflix.com/twit. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Darren Kitchen.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And that's it. That's all you get. There's no other people you need to bring you the tech news of the day.
I thought you were ending the show there.
Poor Sarah Lane did not make it onto a single show this week from France.
Oh.
And going on vacation next week.
Jeez.
But you want to watch Sarah.
Is this like a subtle hint from Sarah Lane to us? Like,
no,
we're smelly. She doesn't want to be on the show.
I hadn't thought of that, Jason.
I'm just saying.
I thought it was just because she was busy doing the web coverage and then she's on vacation. You think she hates us?
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Are you positing that she might be seeing another show?
She has been. She's been seeing the web coverage.
Oh.
You know those French shows.
Right in front of us.
France. They have those accents and girls just fall for them.
Sarah, we brought tequila today.
Meg Whitman has some news for you. She called a all associates meeting this morning at HP. Word leaked out that it was going to happen last night, and the big announcement, WebOS is going open source. Now, you probably already heard about this because everybody's talking about it. The OS stands for open source. Whitman said in her announcement, WebOS is the only platform designed from the ground up to be mobile, cloud-connected, and scalable. By contributing this innovation, HP unleashes the creativity of the open source community to advance a new generation of applications and devices. So not only the operating system, but also the Enyo JavaScript framework and the remaining components of the user space stack will be open sourced. She called it a pure open source project, and in several interviews talked about the need to replace some components that would not be allowed to be open source. So instead of leaving some of it proprietary, they're going to swap it out and make the whole thing open source. And if you're like, well, okay, yeah, I'm an open source advocate, what license are they going to put it out? What's the governance going to be like? HP is actually starting a process to involve the community in making those decisions about governance and license. And she did a little road show with Mark Andreessen talking to The Verge and TechCrunch and All Things D, saying, we, meaning HP, will use WebOS in new hardware, in tablets. She indicated 2013 probably before more tablets come from HP. And she says, we're going to give it 4 or 5 years before we determine whether it's a success or not. So they're committed to it, at least in the medium term.
I mean, this operating system, I was thinking, okay, what are the chances this is going to be doing well in the open source as a project? I mean, some things are out there, like Migo was open source. It didn't really...
Symbian, Migo.
A lot of these things didn't do so well, but considering WebOS is pretty full-featured, and there's always these claims of Microsoft saying, we have a patent on this Android thing, that Android thing, and that other thing, I could see a lot of manufacturers of cell phones going, you know, maybe WebOS at this point is a viable option. HTC has always been open to this. Samsung, they said they would never buy it. They don't have to buy it now. They can use WebOS for free.
Not so much for Motorola.
Well, Motorola is supposed to be at arm's length. If Motorola actually did do a WebOS device, it would show that they're so complete once Google buys them.
Think of what this does to the development community as well. You've got a huge number of $99 touchpads out there running WebOS. This thing now goes open source. We've already seen some pretty cool mods. People taking WebOS and putting it on other things like an HTC phone. You could have a modding community that makes an open source WebOS phone operating system that people could just buy whatever phone they want and put that operating system on it.
Yeah, and then there's the availability of trying to like port WebOS as another application, almost like a virtual WebOS on Android. If you wanted to combine them somehow, you could do that too. Like, and there's a lot of different options.
You could actually do
based on the Linux kernel,
right?
So.
You could do the opposite too. You could have Android apps able to run under WebOS. The possibilities are endless. But remember, this is still supported by HP. HP is going to have a WebOS team that will be in charge of the project in one way or another.
It'll be kind of sort of like how Mozilla is open source and there's still a foundation.
There's a Mozilla Foundation.
Yeah, it's still open source and there's developers.
Well, and that's the big criticism, right? Roger Chang over at CNET was making this criticism that this is similar to all of the failed experiments like Nokia, like you were talking about earlier. When you look at the popular experiments like Linux isn't as successful as maybe people would like it to be, and it started as an open source project. Mozilla came out of Netscape, but was given over to a foundation that was independent of Netscape. So having a corporation in charge of an open source project has never proven to be wildly successful in the past.
But in this case, I mean, because when HP cut that price, back to your touchpad point, when they cut that price down, they were the #2 tablet out there in that, I think, Q3, because it was iPad and then touchpad, because the touchpad was sold at such a discount. There's already so many pieces of hardware out there that can support WebOS versus something like MeeGo or these other things. Those are like on fringe devices. You really want to try to make them work.
Well,
but this already works on like several million devices that are already out there.
I mean, that's just because all of these devices are architecturally the same. I mean, they're mostly all just ARM devices. There's probably no major technical reason why you couldn't have a phone dual booting Android, WebOS, and iOS.
And WebOS likely will be more open source than Android.
Well, depends on the license, and I don't see how you quantify more open source because, you know, in the sense that Android follows the Apache license.
More open source means that it's always open source and every change is committed as open source rather than we may open source this version.
Okay, you know, I get
not
that.
going to open source that.
Yeah, no, I absolutely get that. It's just, you know, I actually do hope it goes GPL rather than like an Apache license, but, you know, they haven't really said what direction they're going to go with it. If it goes GPL, I think we're going to see a lot more fantastic stuff happening faster.
I think the biggest advantage they have is this crazy touchpad fire sale, right? And the fact that we've got, we talked about this earlier this week, there's more HP touchpads going on sale for what are they, refurbs?
$99 refurbs and $149 at HP's eBay store, easy for me to say.
So you've got a lot of devices out there for people to play with. That gives it a leg up over a Symbian, which, yeah, sure, there were a lot of devices that ran Symbian out there, but it didn't have the cachet that the touchpad has right now. You know?
I guess the Kindle Fire would be a good candidate as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure Amazon would like that idea.
iPad?
Actually, supposedly the BOS. What century is this?
I think you just
Did I just
nailed it,
invoke
and
BOS?
WebOS is doomed now. They are going to be the BOS of mobile.
Damn it! Say that. No. Well, BOS kind of came back as Haiku, but not really because that's just kind of a remake. BOS is still owned by Access Company, something limited out of somewhere. But anyway, I don't think that's going to happen to it. I don't know.
There was a WebOS developer who had mentioned that they were testing WebOS on the iPad and it was running way faster.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at was that device-wise, it actually, the iPod Touch, it runs better on the iPod Touch than it does on the touchpad.
Yeah, better hardware,
So
better processor.
Would you like to install WebOS? Sure.
Well, you know, I have to say, I think this is a really smart move from HP because they looked at it and said, we can't make a go of this on our own. We can't find anyone to buy it. But we're going to lose our shirts if we close it down. So why not make a bet that we're going to lose our shirts anyway? Let's throw money at it for the next 5 years, and maybe something will come of this that we can. Then the washback will benefit.
This way, the software doesn't just go into a grave and sit there. Yeah.
And Meg Whitman, very punctual. She said on November 30th, in 2 weeks, you'll know what happens. And it's been under 2 weeks. That's fantastic. I mean, to explain what's going to happen with the computer group and now this. So HP has a direction. Wow.
And HP also saying that, you know, they'll continue to build hardware.
Yeah,
not
that's right.
smartphones, but, you know, tablets.
Well, and that's also smart, right? She said, we're probably not going to do a tablet in 2012. Maybe we will. Probably be more like 2013. But again, that's waiting to see what this open source, this open source project ends up with within a year. Don't rush something out. That is also
this could
smart.
actually be like the best move where if, you know, enough interested developers get involved, you know, suddenly you could have a better an offering than, and actually some would already posit that it already is a better offering than Android and some of the bigger competitors.
Darth Galt says in the chat room, HP's hoping someone does something cool with it so they don't have to.
Yeah,
that's exactly what open source is about. Not saying we're the only ones with good ideas. Kind of twisting your words there, Darth Galt. But I think that is exactly what they're doing, and they hope it works out. The AT&T T-Mobile saga continues. Now, previously on AT&T T-Mobile merger,
We need a soap opera thing.
AT&T had yanked away their FCC request on Thanksgiving, hoping no one would find out. But the FCC thwarted that plan by releasing the decision anyway, even though it had been withdrawn. AT&T said they were focusing on the Department of Justice court case against the merger. And today, the Department of Justice pulled a move that has AT&T screaming. They told a federal judge that the government plans to ask the court for a motion to stay or even withdraw the approval of the merger because of AT&T removing their request from the FCC. The Department of Justice attorney is arguing that a fast track for the case is no longer necessary. AT&T and T-Mobile withdrew their merger application from the FCC several weeks ago, so it's obviously not urgent. We should delay this case until an unknown date in the future.
When you guys get serious about this again.
Judge Ellen S. Howell of the U.S. District Court is the judge presiding over this, said in court, the landscape has changed. It has clearly changed. You could change the deal in a month, referring to AT&T, and everybody's time will be wasted. So it sounds like Judge Howell is likely to want to go along with the DOJ on this. She's given the Justice Department until Tuesday to file its motion and will render a decision on the motion December 15th. AT&T, for their part, their attorney said, we're not playing some strategic game here. We're playing the strategic game. Yeah.
Okay, so this has been going on way too long, I think, this AT&T T-Mobile thing. It's basically jerk move after jerk move after jerk move between either FCC, AT&T, now DOJ.
Well, AT&T started it, right? By withdrawing their application on Thanksgiving morning.
Yeah.
The FCC decided that they weren't going to play that. And so they put the results out. Now the DOJ is saying, well, obviously this isn't very important.
They're just trying to outsnark each other. Yeah.
It's turning into like a bunch of like forum posts. It's a flame war, effectively.
Wow.
Okay, but putting all that aside,
I didn't mean to vilify all forum posts.
I feel like there is a valid concern here on the Department of Justice's side, and the judge is catching on to this, that if they are going to resubmit a proposal to the FCC, it would have to be materially different than the one they're submitting to the DOJ.
So why waste your time?
Wouldn't they have to go through it all again? Granted, AT&T wants to go through the process of the DOJ in court so they can learn what the objections are and react to them, and that's fair too. But at the same time, the DOJ has the right to say, well, that's a waste of our time and resources.
Yeah, the process of the AT&T and DOJ going back and forth in a trial would allow them I would imagine, much more access to each other than if, okay, we're already at arm's length, we're already fighting each other, and now it's not going to be in court. What are the chances they're actually going to be communicating back and forth versus being in a trial where you actually have the ability to talk to the other attorneys and go, hey, look, okay, we heard your concerns here, let's work a settlement out, and that way we can satisfy everybody. Because otherwise, I mean, you're going to have these war of the words in public versus having them in like a nice little conference room between the attorneys, between the parties involved. Because I just think it gives a lot more access if they're allowed to continue the actual trial.
Onward to Spotify. At LeWeb, Spotify co-founder and chief executive Daniel Ek announced a Pandora-like function that will be an app in the Spotify. You know how Spotify announced that they have apps now in their program. When you launch Spotify, you may notice there's a radio function over there. They've expanded that. So now you can put in an artist's name, and it, like Pandora, will create a radio station around that artist. In fact, the cooler thing is you can just drag a track you like over to radio, and it will create a station around that. You get unlimited skipping, which they're making a big deal out of because Pandora limits the amount of skipping you can have unless you pay. And this is available on the free version of Spotify. You won't be able to get it yet. You'll need to download the preview version of Spotify and work with kind of a beta code if you want to try it out right now. But it will be rolling out to everyone sooner or later.
Okay, so right now it's you still have to have the app and all of those things. But in the future, say it becomes, just a website kind of like Pandora, and you just sign up for an account and you get the better service, right? Or well, not better service, but you get the unlimited skipping and all that. Do you think Pandora can just change their model from on a per song basis as to compete?
That seems like it's going to be trouble for Pandora. Every time you listen to a track, they have to pay for it. So that's why you have a limited skip on the free. And for Spotify to get away with this, I'm not really sure.
Do they have to pay if you skip like halfway through, or?
It seems like every time you play it, That's
So
what I've read.
from initiation.
Yeah, so if you listen to like 1 second, you
So it
wanna
doesn't
skip,
matter whether you skip or not.
That's why you do the 5 skips. You're already done with Pandora, or you have the limited amount of stations when you switch. You have those 5 switches or the 5 skips.
But Spotify doesn't have that.
Spotify doesn't have that. I'm playing with this, and I don't know if that's because they have a better deal with the record industry or what. But I mean, if you're using the old Spotify, you'll see the radio option. It's in the main section. It got moved down to the app section, and it's pretty nice to just put a seed song in there. And one of the big problems with Spotify has been discovery. I mean, they have all these sub apps or apps or whatever you want to call them, and this is a good way to find other stuff because it actually when I fired it up this morning, it said, "Oh, you listen to this song a lot. Here's a station for you." So they actually start you off right off the bat.
Yeah, discovery is the big bugaboo right now in all of these subscription services. It's actually a problem for stores as well, like iTunes. How do we get people to hear new music if they're not listening to the radio anymore? So I think this is a good thing from that point of view. I wonder how good it is. They don't say, Eck did not say what technology it's based on. And I haven't seen anybody report
Said,
it.
thanks to our all-new intelligent recommendation engine.
Yeah, did they make their own? Is it based on the Music
They
Genome
said it was
Project?
intelligent, Tom.
Well, obviously it would be.
If we know anything about
they're
Pandora.
Swedish. Of course, it's intelligent. But yeah, if they built their own, then we don't know how good it is until we try it a while. If it's based on the Music Genome Project, then it's going to be pretty similar to Pandora. But we don't know whether it is or not.
There doesn't appear to be like a thumbs up, thumbs down, or skip, or why is this song being played? I mean, that's one of the nice things I like about Pandora. At least they tell you, oh, you like this kind of music. You like loud vocals or loud drums or something like that. But this is just you either skip or you're not skipping.
Yeah.
So I don't know how exact. I don't think it's built
No
on the same
thumbs
stuff.
up, thumbs down.
Yeah, you can
Maybe
star
they could,
stuff a lot easier.
you know what? The awesome feature that they could add that I would love is I am thumbsing this down because
More tequila?
Yes. No, but you know what I'm saying? It's like I don't hate every aspect of this song, but learn this.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Let's
Granular control?
be fair. This just launched in their preview version.
Yeah,
It's certainly far from baked.
And when you open the Spotify app, in the title bar it says Spotify parentheses beta version. So you're in the beta. It's not crashy at all from what I've experienced, by the way.
So, do you want to watch Firefly?
Yes.
Do you want to watch a bit of Fry and Laurie?
I'm not familiar with it, so maybe I should discover
You
it.
can see House before he was House.
How about China's Lost Girls from National Geographic?
That could be good.
Children of the Corn?
Oh,
Do you have Sons of
there you go.
Anarchy on there?
You can watch all of this stuff on our sponsor, Netflix.com/twit for free for 30 days. That and more. Check it out. Or if you are already subscribing, Downton Abbey is what I've been watching on Netflix. I watched the whole first season on there. Go to Netflix.com/twit. Great place to find some holiday movies. They got a bunch of Christmas stuff up there.
New holiday section.
And then the kids section, too, which is great for kids. So if you're already subscribing to Netflix, pass it along to somebody else or try it out for yourself if you're not. Netflix.com/twit. Unlimited streaming of movies and TV shows to all kinds of devices. I can't think of devices that it doesn't stream to. Well, I probably could. It doesn't stream to my Palm Pilot.
PDP-11.
Yeah, but it streams to the Wii, to the Xbox 360, to the PS3, to the Roku, to your laptop, to your phone, to your tablet. Check it out, Netflix.com/twit. We appreciate their support of Tech News Today. Time for Patent Wars. Bad day for Apple in the patent wars today. In Australia, the Australian High Court denied Apple's appeal of the November 30th decision allowing the Galaxy Tab 10.1 to go on sale in Australia. Samsung announced that the 10.1 will be available in Australian stores in time for the Christmas shopping period. Australia's High Court dismissed Apple's bid to have a ban on the sale of the 10.1 extended. Remember, there had been a ban on it temporarily already. The High Court also denied the motion with costs, meaning that Apple has to pay Samsung for all the legal wrangling.
For 3 months. This thing was supposed to come out September 12th.
Yeah. So
Yikes.
it's as you pointed out when we were talking
like
about this
last
earlier,
minute.
we're partway through the holiday shopping season.
Yeah, for those buying online, I think it's like December 12th where you need to lock in your purchase.
It's too bad Apple didn't keep pushing this further and further. I mean, the Galaxy Tab could have shipped with ice cream sandwich. I mean, right now.
You're right.
I mean, it's getting so close. The second
could have
you
done
buy
Samsung
it.
Like,
a
actually,
favor,
the second
right?
you buy it, it's already been sitting for 3 months.
Right,
You got
I
how
mean,
many updates?
The funny thing is, I was looking at the PC Mag article and I was like, is that a composited image of an iPad again? I'm telling you, it wasn't a joke. When I saw it, I was staring at it. I'm like, oh, that's the Galaxy Tab. I still have.
You still can't tell the difference between a 4x3 and a 16x9, Iyaz?
It was at an angle. It was like this.
An angle.
Yes, my depth perception is not very good.
Your
sure
mom's
that's
an angle.
That's what they said to the attorneys.
Also in patent wars, Motorola beat Apple in Germany. It sounds like we're giving football scores. In Mannheim, Motorola defeated Apple. Mannheim Regional Court actually is where this took place. They ruled in Motorola Mobility's favor in a patents dispute with Apple. Motorola accuses Apple of failing to license a patent. This is pretty thorny here, but essentially, Motorola has a patent for a method for performing a countdown function during a mobile-originated transfer for a packet radio system. This refers to GPRS, so it's a patent that is essential to operate 2G and 3G.
So they have to license it.
Exactly. Under European law, they have to pay what's called a FRAND fee. If Apple says we would like to use this, we will pay your FRAND fee. It has to be a reasonable fee for a standards patent like this. The problem is Apple didn't license it. So Motorola sued. Apple did offer to pay a FRAND fee going forward and was willing to pay a similar rate for past infringements, but through some quirks of European law.
Yeah, they say that by suing over standard and essential patents, instead of just working out a FRAND agreement, it's essentially a violation of their anti-competitive laws.
Well, Apple tried to retain the right to contest the validity of the patent. And Motorola said, well, no, the patent's valid. You don't get to contest that. And so Motorola was able to go to court. They want to charge Apple above the FRAND rate for the past 4 years and block them from testing the validity of it. Florian Miller told the BBC, in Germany, you get a first ruling by a regional court rather quickly. That's this Mannheim court. Usually between companies of stature, the disputes go to the higher regional court, and that could take a couple of years. So this is the opposite of the Australian case in that it's the first shot in a long battle.
Google's probably like
so a couple of years, and this is all having to do with what again? GPRS? 2G, 3G? Let it go.
Oh, Google must be jumping up and down. They're like, oh, good, the thing we're going to buy, it actually has something on Apple. At least one thing. Like, remember when HTC
Yeah, but what a dick move would that be for Motorola to use that against Apple?
Well, they would use it against everybody, considering it's about 2G and 3G. So that's any phone that exists out there or any device that accesses the internet on a cellular connection. I'm just thinking about when HTC tried to buy VIA, and they're like, oh, your patents weren't successful against Apple. We're not going to buy you anymore. We're not going to bother with this. I think it was S3.
Now, the other thing you may be seeing all over the internet is Motorola banning the iPod in Germany. Motorola won the right to ban the iPod and the iPad and the iPhone. Actually, not the iPod. You're right. The iPhone and the iPad 3G in Germany.
That wouldn't happen.
They would have to post a 100 million euro bond to enforce that injunction, and current inventory of iPhones and iPads would not be affected. So during the holiday season in Germany, you'd be able to go buy an iPhone and an iPad.
So this is effective that they could right now and not wait for Apple to appeal, as Apple has said that they will?
Exactly. And it remains to be seen whether that's worth it for Motorola to put up that bond, because if they lose, then they have to pay Apple 100 million euros, just like Apple's having to pay Samsung that money in Australia.
So at this point, though, Motorola and Apple are fighting about how much money is going to be on the royalties. I mean, Motorola wants to charge more. Apple say we want to pay you X. They want Y. They're going to figure out a solution. And Motorola
wants to prevent Apple from challenging the validity of the patent.
I mean, effectively, what we're going to see is what ends up at the end of all of these. You're going to see harmony. You're going to see Apple products sold there. And
Logitech? Oh, no, a different kind of harmony.
No, different kind of harmony, like the actual concept of it. You'll see the iPad being sold in this country, and Motorola will have a nice new revenue stream. Because, I mean, when you start doing these injunctions, like, oh, I don't want this product in here. Does Motorola really have a product that's going to benefit from this? The Droid Razr
Droid something
thing, the Zyboard?
I don't know.
I mean, like, why Apple did this was they had competition. The Zoom will take over.
Yeah, obviously.
Yes, we'll see a huge boom in Zoom.
This is all that's standing in the way of Zoom world dominance.
But they have a competing product. That's all I'm saying.
I just think Motorola probably thinks the revenue stream from Apple's products might be better than their own.
Yeah, and and they don't want to lose their patent because this patent is licensed by everybody under FRAND, except Apple. So Apple's move here to try to get it tested for validity really threatens a revenue source for Motorola, which is why they're fighting this so hard. But I think what the interesting thing here is rarely, and the Samsung case we talked about earlier is one of the few exceptions, rarely do you see bans actually go into place. Most consumers have no idea any of this stuff is going on.
This stuff was shipped before the case. It's not even done, and they're in the stores because people send us emails all the time. How come I can get this in Germany now?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like they're forced to remove them from stores.
Yeah, they don't go quite that far. All right, final story in our discussion section today. A juror's tweets have caused a murder conviction of a death row inmate to be overturned by a court in the United States. He was actually scheduled to be executed by lethal injection. Arkansas Supreme Court judges said it was inappropriate for a juror to have posted to Twitter and have overturned the conviction. The judges have asked a panel to consider whether jurors' access to mobile phones should be limited during trials. Erickson Dimas Martinez was convicted of murder in 2010 for shooting and robbing a teenager, Derek Jefferson, after a party in Arkansas 4 years earlier. Mr. Dimas Martinez's lawyers appealed against the conviction after Randy Franco, a member of the jury, tweeted the following: "Choices to be made, hearts to be broken. We each define the great line."
He was just quoting some American Christian.
He was quoting a band.
bands.
Yeah, exactly. However, that refers to the case. Juries are under strict instructions not to discuss the case with anyone nor broadcast their opinions to anyone.
Hasn't that always been the case?
It has always, yeah. In the United States, that has always been the case.
Well, yeah, so here's the situation, right? A long time ago, before we have these great methods of communication where we can go online and publish our thoughts to everybody, it would be like, I tell Darren, and Darren might tell somebody else. So I'm figuring
And it wouldn't get back to the judge because we're not in a public forum.
Even at that point, even if it did, like we're talking about 20 or 30 people, maybe like an actual social circle. This
It's against the rules,
Yeah.
still.
It's definitely against rules. But the idea is that when you publish something online, now you're basically saying anybody can go to this URL, anybody, assuming this was a public tweet, and they can go ahead and see this. Now, that one isn't so bad. The coffee here sucks is one of them.
Now, the other tweets were not problems, and the coffee sucks is one of them.
Yeah, and court day 5, here we go again.
That also is not one of them because this was not a jury where they were protecting the identity of the jurors.
Part of this has to go with the boredom of the jury. That's the thing. If you show a disinterested jury, people are not paying attention to what's going on.
I think another
it's like
aspect of it,
trouble.
though, is like you say, like before, where, without all of this technology, you would tell me and I maybe would tell somebody else. But now, with this culture of our social networks, we're almost expected to share our thoughts.
But I want to get back to a more fundamental issue. The reason jurors are not supposed to comment on the trial is they don't want to have the jury influenced by anything except what's going on in the court. So you're not allowed to go research on your own. You're not allowed to discuss it with other people because you don't want other people to tell you, oh, well, this is what you should think. You're supposed to be isolated in your opinion and form it only on the evidence presented in court. Does posting choices to be made, hearts to be broken, we each define the great line, somehow invite people to influence Mr. Franco's opinion? He could say, well, that post was actually about my girlfriend. I was going to break her heart.
If everyone starts replying him about, oh, this guy's totally guilty or he's not guilty or that,
right, and now it's a discussion.
Now
It's
you've
two-way
created a
street.
situation, unless he's blocking all at replies or any other way of getting communications. I mean, if he says this, let's say he goes to a restaurant, he's ordering lunch, and he somehow manages to stammer this out, the person has no idea what he's talking about. If he's saying on Twitter and people know that he's on a jury, and they're now
because he said court day 5, here we go again. That's not an illegal tweet, but because he posted that, they know he's on the jury.
You have this context, and it's if you're on a jury, this is not like some silly it's a trespass case or some small thing.
Yeah,
this
it's
is
a death penalty.
The death penalty here. So I mean, if you're going to put a man to death, your jury should hopefully not be influenced by outside of things outside of court, because that's why that system is there in the first place. That's why the judge gives you these instructions. I've been on a jury, and they tell you what you're supposed to do, and it doesn't mean everybody does it.
Now, the final question, because of what you just said, not everybody does it, right? The final question is, should they consider, because they're considering whether jurors should have access to mobile phones or have their access to mobile phones limited during the trials, should the jurors be prevented from tweeting or Facebook posting or anything during the course of their service on the jury? Is that too great of an infringement of their freedom of speech? The way we don't tell people you can't talk to anyone, they just say you can't discuss the case. Does the fact that this guy went and discussed the case on Twitter anyway mean that we should remove the ability of juries to do that?
Well, if you don't remove the ability, and they do it anyway.
So we should duct tape their mouth?
Well, hang on. If they do it anyway, then we're talking about we're going to prolong a case longer and longer and longer, without and this you can lose information that way.
If they disobey,
right? If they so if you don't remove it, so if you do remove these items, and these jurors are still going out of their way to act in a way that they want to publish and share, well, that person should be dismissed. Like, in other words, it's almost
but they
like
should be dismissed anyway. That's my argument.
Okay, but it's still going to prolong the event. I mean, this is supposed to be like an actual trial. It's not supposed to be like something that's supposed to be dragged out for years.
Right, but
because this could happen. There's 12 people, right?
But if you discover that somebody was talking about the case, then it's going to prolong the trial too. It's the same danger. It's just more easy to discover because it's a public
Well, I mean, isn't that why that some juries are
doesn't the
sequestered?
same rules apply? You know, if the same rules have always been, you know, just don't talk about the case, then, well, okay, continue using Twitter. Just that's the one thing. Just don't talk about it.
Right, and this is like the one time that we've heard of this happening.
Well, no, there have been other
there have been
incidents,
other ones,
but relative
I mean,
to the population, it's a
exactly,
small percentage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was actually a woman in Manchester that got 8 months in prison for contempt of court.
Yeah, but
after
she's crazy.
Facebooking the defendant. The defendant.
I mean, we're basically creating a new administrative position. Somebody go, okay, everyone on the jury, give me your Facebook ID, your Twitter ID. I need to monitor you while this is happening. And if you do this, I'll kick you off this thing. I guess the lawyers could do this as well. It's just
you know what? If you want to make sure the trial doesn't get delayed at all, keep everyone in the courtroom. Don't allow them to leave or talk to anyone.
Well, that's sequestering, right?
Yeah, exactly. Do you need to sequester every trial? Maybe that's
murder
it.
trials, maybe.
Maybe there are trials, like a murder trial, where you do have to put in place more restrictions like this. And that may be reasonable. But most of the time, I think you have to say, look, just follow the damn instructions. And
I'm for that.
If you're going to have people on the jury, you're going to have to risk that the people will not follow instructions because you're having people. But that's no reason that you have to infringe their rights further than is necessary. You shouldn't have a principle enshrined in law that says we distrust every single person.
No, I'm just thinking it should just simply be part of the rules as it is now. It's just that when people are on a jury, they just don't pay attention in general.
Well, that's a problem with people.
Right, that's a much larger problem. I don't know how to solve that.
Robot jurors.
Done.
Who's programming them?
There we go.
People. That's the problem.
No.
You have robots programming.
Skynet will make them.
Okay. Well, so then that solves everything.
Yeah.
Always does.
It's like printers that print out copies of themselves. Let's move on to the news feed.
LP0 on fire.
RightsFlow, a music licensing and royalty payment company, just got snapped up by YouTube, of all places. The acquisition will give Google another way to pay its content producers. Eric Schmidt did say that Google was buying a company a week. Looks like they've got their quota for this week.
Boy Genius Report says that Samsung will introduce a new Android tablet running Ice Cream Sandwich with an 11.6-inch display with a resolution of 2560 by 1600.
Damn, 11 inches.
That is really tight. Along with a super thin bezel that makes the form factor about the same size as the Galaxy 10.1. Okay, so you're never going to confuse this with an iPad. BGR also says we'll likely see this tab at Mobile World Congress in February.
All these super thin bezels are giving other bezels bad bezel images.
Yeah, they are. Now this thing feels puny, the Galaxy Note. Like, what? Need that kind of res. Anyway, Mark Andreessen, he wanted to explain where he stands with the Yahoo on his own personal blog. And he writes, quote, "To be clear, neither Jeff Jordan nor I nor any of our partners at Andreessen Horowitz are in the running for or would accept any operating role at Yahoo, including CEO, acting CEO, chairman, or executive chairman." Ouch.
I think that's clear.
They got like Samsung right there. They're like, clear. We're not buying this. We're not doing this.
Yeah.
Google Plus just added its own version of Photo Tag Suggest called Find My Face.
Find it.
Anything
I've
with face
lost
is
my
funny.
face.
The feature tags a person's face and asks the user if its guess is correct. The big difference in Find My Face is that it is an opt-in service, unlike Facebook's previous controversial face recognition technology.
Opting in. What an idea.
Just imagine all those Photoshops you're going to find of yourself.
Oh, great. After T-Mobile got Umail's visual voicemail app kicked from the Android app market, Umail has returned. Umail posted on its blog that T-Mobile did try to contact them, but they did it via their free customer support email address, and Umail kind of missed the email. The bug in Umail actually caused a lot of bandwidth consumption, and Umail's next release will fix that issue.
So wait, T-Mobile contacted them through their customer support email address?
Their
Come
free
on.
one. Yeah, they didn't do any other.
That's like following the letter and not the spirit of the law. There.
It's like me emailing you webmaster@tommerritt.com.
Yeah, exactly. It's brilliant.com. I'll never get that.
Now, according to Sarah Houghton's librarianinblack.net, Overdrive, the digital book distributor used by many libraries, offers different catalogs of ebooks for different libraries. To back this up, Ryan Claringbull, a librarian at the Chesapeake Public Library in Virginia, included screenshots showing inconsistencies inconsistent offerings at Overdrive. Apparently, Overdrive never bothered to disclose this information to its customers.
This is a huge deal for libraries. They thought they were all getting the same access to the same books. Having a system that bills itself that way and then goes, oh, yeah, we're not going to allow those books in that library because that book's selling really well.
That's funny because I thought, like, when I was in New York and I was getting books over Overdrive, I'm not getting the same ones over here in Petaluma. I was like, I just thought, like, maybe the rights expired.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
So Sarah Houghton, thanks for tipping us off to that. We're gonna, if this keeps blowing up, we're gonna have her on to comment on it. According to UBS analyst Maynard revised estimates, Apple will sell 30 million iPhones in the fourth quarter of this year. Originally predicted sales of 28 million units, but he's not the only one increasing estimates. J.P. Morgan's Mark Moskowitz also increased his estimates by around 3 million, but he thinks Apple will move 28 million iPhones.
Google's getting serious about gaming by partnering with several game companies, including Square Enix, to get their games to play in the Google Chrome browser. Tweaks to Chrome allow it to run games using your PC's graphics processors. The game makers announced several games that will run in Chrome, including Bastion and Mini Ninjas. Kotaku tried out Bastion on Chrome and said it was amazing. Amazing. Like Spider-Man.
In Soviet Russia, botnets tweet you. Now, actually, according to Trend Micro, Twitter discussions about political protests in Moscow were drowned out due to a botnet inundating Twitter with spam. And these spam messages included a hashtag used by protesters that were posted at a rate of 10 tweets per second.
Yeah, Vladimir Putin's trying to become president again, and so the elections for the Duma were very controversial because there were accusations that they were stacking the deck, and so there's a lot of nasty stuff going on over there. And so Russia, looking at the rest of the world, going, "Oh, Twitter has always been a fuel for the protesters." I guess hired some hackers to fight back. Maybe.
You know, Twitter just acquired Whisper Systems. Maybe in the future this won't be an issue.
Let's move on to the randomizer.
Randomizer.
Okay, I was really fascinated by this story at Technology Review. That's MIT's blog, technologyreview.com. A new service called Loc-Aid, LOC-AID, uses your full phone number to figure out exactly where you are right now. This could be used by banks and card issuers interested in checking where their customers are as a way to reduce fraud. Now, I know immediately a bunch of people are like, I don't want my bank to know where I am. It's an opt-in service. You would have to say, okay, I'm going to give you permission to find me, as a way to say, hey, that charge is coming from Rwanda, but this person seems to be in Poughkeepsie. So we're going to deny that charge. That's the kind of use for it. They have put up a web demo. If you go to instantlocatetemo.loc/aid.com, LOC-AID.com, you can put in your own phone number. They'll send you a text message. You reply to that text message approving it, and then on the web, they will locate your phone based on the phone number. They're tied in to the databases of the major U.S. and Canadian cellular networks, which are legally required to have technology that spits out the location of a device for the purpose of making 911 calls. But this would allow you to give approval to institutions like banks or whatever you want to find your phone that way.
Did it work for you?
I tried it out. Yeah, I sent it my note, and it pinpointed me right at home.
How close? Just the tower?
At my house.
Nice.
Yeah, it was the corner where I live.
And this is the direct line on that phone. It's not like a Google Voice number.
Right. No, this was my actual
Did you
phone.
get a text or something where you had to reply back and accept
exactly.
it?
I went onto the web. I put in my phone number and my birth date. The birth date is to make sure you're over 18. And then it sent me a text on my phone, said, reply with this message if you want to approve this. I replied, and instantly on the web it said, okay, we got your approval. Here's where you are. Do you want to continue? I said no, and I immediately got a text message here saying you've been removed from the service. You don't have to opt out anymore.
This could be fun for spear phishing. But regardless, I tested it with Google Voice, and it didn't work so much. It actually brought me to the developer page where I'm supposed to fill in contact information so we can get our APIs going on. So get on that, Google, or don't. That'd be better.
Obviously, immediately you're going to think of lots of abuses like spear phishing for this. But it sounds like Loc-Aid is really trying to handle it correctly and make sure that it's locked down as much as possible. And I could see some really good usage for this as well.
Like if you're standing at an ATM in Petaluma and you're trying to take out umpteen bajillion dollars, and it's like, oh, let's make sure you're actually standing in front of it.
Obviously, somebody steals your phone.
Yeah. Oh.
There's a weakness in it.
Well, apparently I'm in Texas right now, McKinney, Texas. I don't even know how that works. My Google Voice number apparently.
Well, that's the thing.
What's your area code?
Google Voice
I got
is
757.
Google
going on. I'm
Voice
representing
is not
Hampton
going
Roads.
to work for this because it's not tied into the 911 system.
Well, there you go. So if you want to get around being located, you should use Google Voice number.
I guess so.
Or if you really want to be located, it's kind of important. If
Yeah,
911.
If you want to lay in the ditch bleeding to death forever, use Google Voice. Let's move on to the calendar.
The Motorola Zyboard tablets are available right now at the Verizon online store. Brick-and-mortar locations officially get the LTE tablets on December 12th, but reports say that some stores already have them, so if you want to find them, look out. Nokia's Lumia 710 is now available in Taiwan and should hit stores in several countries, including India and Russia, over the next week. The global launch is scheduled for the coming weeks. The Nintendo 3DS Slide Pad add-on is official, and it ships in Japan Saturday, December 10th. Also on the 10th, the Sony Android Walkman Z launches. Now, that's the one with the Tegra 2 processor and has a 4.3-inch screen running Gingerbread. Starting December 14th, you can get the white Galaxy S2 on T-Mobile. It's only available online, so if you want to get it, go online.
Let's check what's incoming.
Incoming message.
Got a voicemail to 260-TNT show with an idea for retail stores who are upset about Amazon's push to get you to check prices using their app.
Hey, on yesterday's show, you guys were talking about Amazon's barcode scanner app. Well, in one of the company's businesses where I live, Menards, they actually have big signs out saying that it is unauthorized and you cannot use any device to scan in a barcode, and you cannot compare prices. I don't know if that's going to be a new trend, but and I'm not even sure what they actually throw you out of the store. That's the signs say, so just fine, pass that on. Okay, thanks, bye.
All right, so retail store could say, we ban the use of this app in the store. If we catch you using the Amazon app.
Or any device, he said.
Yeah.
Like you could
They could do that. They say, if we catch you scanning something with your phone, we're going to kick you out. They could do that, right?
Well,
I'd imagine so. It's private property. It's their own thing. I mean, they could throw you out for any reason. You're not wearing shoes. Get out. I mean,
yeah. I mean, some people have boxes of Q-Cats. I'm just saying.
But then again, I mean, like there's stores like Walmart, and if they do price match. I'm kind of curious if you start doing that. You're like, look, I scanned it. I get 5% off. Will you give that to me?
Well, see, and here's the thing, right? This is a fine idea as far as it goes, but I think it's a stupid idea. Any store that does that, I'm immediately not shopping at.
Yeah, any store that puts up, like as you walk in, we don't allow you to comparison shop with the Amazon app.
See you
That's
later.
just saying we can't compete.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
so,
like a good sign. That means you're like, I'm not going to go there.
Right.
Go over there.
Yeah, there you
it's
go.
a way to drive people away from your store.
No, actually, a better way would be for those retail outlets to come up with their own apps and then use it as a way to kind of do promotions and things like that, like the Safeway card, where it's like you're a card member and you get some discounts.
Retailers should stop fearing the future. Don't fall into the same mistakes that every other industry has made when the internet came calling, and embrace it. Fight fire with fire. Create a consortium. Use your Chamber of Commerce powers, you one percenters, and make an app that people can add on to their browser when you're shopping on Amazon that shows you a lower price at a local store in your neighborhood.
Yeah, how much would it do for your for the way that you feel about a brand if, say, Tom, you were in a Best Buy and you were scanning a TV and the Best Buy app said, oh yeah, this is a great TV, but actually across the street at Circuit City, it's, you know.
Kind of like the progressive approach. That's what they do with the auto insurance. They're like, we'll show you everybody's prices, and if one's lower, go with them. We don't care.
Yeah, I mean, just embrace the fact that people want to find the best price and compete on price. Mm-hmm. That's the way it's supposed to be.
You know,
and
it used to be that you could bring in.
Here's the thing: I will pay a slightly larger price to conveniently be able to drive down the road and grab it now, rather than wait even the 2 days of the Amazon Prime shipping for certain things, as long as the price isn't too much bigger. But if it's like $1 more, and it's like, oh, hey, I could have it tonight and start playing around with it, versus having to wait 2 days. If you can show me that, show me that. Don't sit here and try to, don't call Amazon tax evaders and just get mad and put out a press release. That does nothing but make you look like schmucks.
Yeah.
Come out with something that actually helps me as the consumer, and I will embrace you.
Well, there's plenty of those promotions where it's always
Not in a weird way.
Bring in the newspaper clipping that shows it as a better price somewhere else, and we'll match that or something.
Yeah.
They want your business regardless.
Totally. All right. Thanks to everybody on our Reddit. Folks, if you haven't tried out the Reddit, go do it. TechNewsToday.reddit.com. You got all weekend to submit stories. Go in there and vote things up or down. We look at that along with all of our other sources to determine what goes into the show each day. And we thank the 3,600 plus people who are in there and members of our subreddit at TechNewsToday.reddit.com. Also, don't forget, coming up a week from Monday, December 19th, from noon to 1 p.m., we'll be recording our Open Mic 2011 show. That means we're inviting 3 of you in the audience to come and join us on the show. So email us, tnt@twit.tv, and let us know why we should pick you to be on the show. Use the subject line Open Mic 2011, and again, send that to tnt@twit.tv. We'll be picking soon. So please email us because we what's our deadline for people to send in the email, Jason?
It's a good question. I guess we didn't choose that, but I'd say at least at the very latest, probably like that Thursday before, so we can pick
next
Friday
Thursday.
and give the weekend
Thursday the 15th
to let people know.
So you have till Thursday the 15th. Send us an email, but don't delay. Send it now.
Do it now.
The faster you get it in, the
We're
better
waiting
chance
patiently for your email, so do it now.
What's Hack 5's plan for the holiday?
Oh, we're just carrying on with what we do. We're
new episode every week.
New episode every week, regardless. We're playing with QEMU this week, doing a little bit of virtualization and a little steg analysis with Scalpel. It's good stuff. Tune in. Oh, and then Kevin met Nick on next week.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
Fantastic. Looking forward to that.
It was a good interview with Shannon. You got to tune in.
All right, check it out. Don't forget to check us out on the web. twit.tv/TNT is the place to find links to all the episodes if you want to share them around. The subscribe links for the video as well as the audio. Links to our wiki has all our show notes. Do all of that. Also, you can email us TNT@twit.tv, as I just mentioned, and give us a call, 260-TNT-SHOW. Good old John Falcone from CNET.com joins us on Monday. I'm looking forward to that. We'll see you then.